Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of the killing of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. He is the black man who was jogging near his neighborhood in Brunswick, Georgia, a year ago when a number of white men gunned him down in the middle of the street. They were not arrested for months, not until video of the killing was released and triggered a public outcry over justice and racism in our justice system. I will tell you that the video footage of that killing is among the most upsetting video I've seen in my career as a reporter. We saw a man hunted. So today we're talking to a reporter who has been covering this story for the past year, and she'll update us on the status of the investigation and what new information has come out since we last spoke about Ahmaud Arbery's death. Emma Hurt is political reporter for WABE, Atlanta's NPR station. She has a piece coming out tomorrow marking the anniversary of Arbery's death. I'm excited to invite in Emma. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I just realized I didn't put in my AirPods. Hold on.
We hear you fine, but good.
Okay, I'll do it just video, so you can.
Oh,
you can never have better audio, right?
Yeah, you're right. So most of America has not really kept up with the intricacies of this investigation. Would you first remind us of the events of February 23rd, a year ago, and who Ahmaud Arbery is?
So Ahmaud Arbery was a 25-year-old Black Brunswick, Georgia native who, according to all accounts by his family and friends, was out for a jog that he took regularly. He was a runner. He played sports, and he was really into fitness and ran a lot. And he was running in a neighborhood near his house in suburban Brunswick, Georgia, on the coast, when it appears that he stopped in a construction site that had been ongoing, that he had been seen in before. Just look around. There's video of him in that site just looking around. And one of his friends has said that Ahmaud was considering becoming an electrician. And so one theory is that he was just looking around as the construction progressed and looking at the wiring. And then he went on down the street. Meanwhile, there were two men who lived in the neighborhood, Greg and Travis McMichael, a father and a son, who had been aware of some break-ins in the neighborhood, and then some people who had been visiting the construction site. And they assumed that Ahmaud was the person culpable for burglaries and break-ins, and having had no evidence from what we can understand except that he looked kind of like guys they had seen on video. So they ran and got guns and got into their pickup truck and began chasing Ahmaud down the street. And one of their neighbors, whose name is William Roddy Bryan, joined the chase, it appears, and he was the one that took the video. And they were trying to kind of hem him in their neighborhood, they say they were trying to get him to stop, to just talk to them. But I don't know, if you're being chased as you're jogging, you might not want to stop either. We don't know exactly what was going through anyone's mind, but as we saw in the video that William Bryan took, they basically encountered Arbery again, and Travis McMichael got out of his truck and shot him 3 times in the street. And from there was no prosecution of any of those men, even though they were found at the scene of the crime, 2 of them with blood on their hands from Arbery. There was no prosecution until May, when we all saw that video that was so horrific.
Would you walk us through why you think it took so long, or what the reporting is, and the white assailant's ties to local law enforcement?
So Greg McMichael, the father of the son who fired the bullets, had been a longtime investigator in the local DA's office and had been a police officer himself a couple decades ago for a little bit of time. But it's a small community, and if you're the investigator of the district attorney's office, you're interacting with police all the time. So he was very much a part of the law enforcement community, and in body cam footage that we've seen since, We can actually see a police officer responding to the scene, talking to Greg McMichael, like, "Hey, Greg, how's it going? Oh, it's really tough to see you in this terrible circumstances. Yeah, well, I hope you're well." I mean, he was plugged into the law enforcement community, and so
And that's
one
new.
theory.
That's new.
Sorry.
That's
That
new.
was new footage from December. So we were able to see in December the body cam footage from officers responding. So we got to hear the McMichaels making their case and watch the police respond to the scene. There was a lot of, I think, disturbing details in there as well that I can get into. But I mean, the theory is that, he was assumed he was a known quantity, and the police who responded didn't handcuff him or anyone. And I think what was so outrageous to so many people, especially people of color in that community, is if someone is shot and someone is found at the scene of the crime with a gun and blood on their hands, you would hope that person would be arrested or at least brought in for questioning. But none of that happened. And we also learned that the local DA, who used to be the boss of Greg McMichael, did recuse herself and pass the case off in a way that is questionable and is under investigation in and of itself to a nearby DA. And he came in and he defended the men's actions as a cause of citizen's arrest. So that's a statute in Georgia law that allows any citizen to arrest someone else if they have knowledge of a crime, immediate knowledge of a crime. It's really ambiguous. The state government is trying to get rid of it right now. But that was the basis of the defense for those men for the months, even while Ahmaud's family was saying, this doesn't make any sense. They were originally told that Ahmaud was in an altercation with the owner of a house that he was burglarizing. And so even with the family pushing.
Right?
Sorry?
Was it the police who told them that he was in an altercation?
It was it was the DA. It was the prosecutor that took on the case, is my understanding. Yeah.
And it's gone to, I think, 3 DAs in total.
So actually, we're now at 5. 4 DAs offices, 5 DAs. So there was the first local DA who has ties to one of the men in jail. And then there was the nearby DA who defended the men and kind of sat with the case for months. And then it was immediately passed by the Attorney General once outrage started to a kind of nearby DA, a little bit further away. And he was just like, this is too much for me. Please send it to a bigger DA's office. And so then it went to a Metro Atlanta DA's office. And then that DA lost her reelection in November.
Okay.
And so her successor is now in charge. However, I've been in touch with that office and they haven't changed any of the lawyers on the team. So there's not, I don't think, there hasn't been much change there. But yes, yeah.
3 men, the assailants, they're behind bars awaiting trial, is my understanding. What are the charges that they face, and why is no trial scheduled yet?
So they face 8 counts. I cannot list them all for you, but malice murder is the headline. And I'm sorry, the second part of your question? Why
hasn't a trial been scheduled?
Yes. So it's working its way through the courts. There's a lot of back and forth between the lawyers requesting hearings and, trying to set the parameters of what's allowed, what kind of evidence is allowed. But truly, the pandemic has screwed this up, right? I mean, courts across the world have been slowed down. And while we have had a couple hearings, even in-person hearings since May, the judge who is now in charge has said that he's not going to do any more in-person hearings until the state of public health emergency has been lifted. However, and so if there's going to be a video or a remote hearing, both sides need to agree. And so if either side, for whatever reason, isn't interested in that, there'll be more delays. So right now we don't have anything else scheduled on the books, actually, in terms of another hearing. We can expect other ones to come to sort out what the lawyers are debating before we get to trial. But it's a really long road, and it's been a big toll on the family and the friends of Ahmaud. I spoke to his dad today, and it's just, the anger, of course, and the grief are so fresh and so there, but most especially because he feels like no justice has been done yet, and so I think that that pressure is really weighing on them a lot.
I want to get back to the family
Yeah.
in a moment. Let's talk a little bit about any changes. You mentioned that there's an effort to change the citizens arrest law, but that hasn't moved. Did hate crimes legislation change in Georgia as a result of this shooting?
Yeah, so there are kind of layers of changes that I think, Ahmaud's death has sparked in Georgia. So at the state level, there's a hate crimes bill which was stalled at the time. Georgia was one of, I think, 4 states to not have a hate crime statute, and it was stalled. And then Ahmaud's death became public, and Republicans and Democrats across both chambers got on board and passed it in June, and that was a big deal, and it was passed in Ahmaud's name. And then there's the citizens arrest statute, which they've been studying. Lawmakers promised to do something about it last summer, but they took some time to study it. Most states have something like this on the books, and not many have dealt with it, and so they wanted to take their time. And then the governor adopted the cause, so it had been a Democratic proposal, and then the governor picked it up and submitted his own proposal to repeal it and replace it with a super limited form where if you're a shopkeeper and you witness someone stealing from your store, then you can detain someone, but it really makes it a lot clearer what's allowed, and there's obviously no use of force allowed in that. So there's the state level, and then at the local level, a big change that happened was that DA, that first district attorney who had connections to Greg McMichael, was voted out through a write-in campaign, which is just crazy. It was
That's
passed. Yeah, it's really hard to do. And she was defeated by 30 points in a write-in campaign.
So the community was outraged.
They were outraged, and they didn't forget. From May to November, there was a concerted effort across race and class in Glynn County to defeat her, is what I'm told. And I mean, that result speaks for itself. And then even further down at the county level, we're talking police reform right now. And what I've heard from people on the ground is that, they're at the beginning stages of it, but they're feeling a lot more optimistic and listened to than ever before. Proposal for a citizens review board is going to get serious consideration. They've made some promises about a new police chief search in terms of what they're going to prioritize. So things have changed.
So there's some racial reckoning happening from the top local, but hasn't been police reform yet on the local level.
There hasn't been any sort of large scale ordinance passed or overhaul that you might see in a press release per se. But I mean, I hear anecdotally that aggressive policing, people in the community, in the Black community, feel like it has come down. Mm-hmm. That police new recruits to Glynn County are now 50% people of color. And the department not being reflective of its community was a big problem that people pointed to. And so, I think stay tuned on that. But I mean, I talked to the only Black county commissioner who knew Ahmaud and knows Ahmaud's family well today. And I talked to him back in May. And back in May, he was understandably angry, grieving. And I didn't feel a sense of optimism from him. But today I talked to him, I was like, you sound different. Your tone sounds different. And he said, I really feel like they're listening to us. It's because the spotlight is here, but we'll take it. And hopefully the spotlight will give us, a model police department to move forward. That's the hope.
And while they have the spotlight, the anniversary is tomorrow. You said you've spoken with the family. What are they planning to do to commemorate that 1-year anniversary?
So there are 2 events. Ahmaud's dad still lives in Brunswick, and there's going to be a memorial walk through the neighborhood where Ahmaud died. There's also a virtual fundraiser for a foundation that was started by some of Ahmaud's friends in Brunswick called the 223 Foundation. And so it's a virtual run and a virtual fundraiser this is the same group of people that organized the I Run with Maud, hashtag I Run with Maud, in May.
And will you tell me what that is so people can support it if they want?
Where it is?
What's it called again?
The 223 Foundation.
23.
So
Okay.
223 for February 23rd. Yeah. Yeah, definitely a great cause to support. Those are some really strong advocates for Ahmaud and for their community. And they're trying to change things by funding scholarships and helping support young Black and Brown leaders in Brunswick and coastal Georgia. And then in Waynesboro, which is a couple hours away, is where Ahmaud is buried and is where his mom lives. And so there'll be a vigil at his gravesite tomorrow night there as well.
That's open.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
You have a piece coming out tomorrow on all this?
sorry.
You have a piece coming, and you have a piece coming out tomorrow?
Yes, I have two.
Oh,
I
how do you
have two.
yes.
No, you're good. No, it's one kind of more focused locally and taking a step back, and then one about the state level reforms. But the other thing I wanted to say about talking to Ahmaud's family is, you know, I was thinking about these events, and I asked Marcus Arbery, his dad, how are you going to spend tomorrow? And he just said, the same way I've spent every day since last year, which is mourning and struggling with my baby's death. And it just really hit me in that way. So I mean, while there's been so much attention, and you know, Ahmaud has kind of entered the pantheon really of these young people who've been symbols, he's still, you know, these people's son, and they still lost their son. And so I think as we're all thinking about tomorrow, it's important to just remember that.
The really human aspect, right?
Yeah.
The family is without their loved one. And Emma, thank you so much for your time and for your work. How can people find you in your reporting?
Oh, thank you, Jessica. First of all, I'm a big fan. This is such an honor. I have a lot of friends who are big fans and have sent me your way. Yeah. I am coming back on to Instagram. I took a couple years away. I'm relearning it.
It's
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm on Twitter at Emma_Hurt, but I'm an NPR member station reporter, so you hear me on NPR airwaves nationally and here in Atlanta. I normally cover politics, so if that's not your thing, sorry in advance. But
well, any it's their thing, and it's WBAE. Is that what it is? Are those
WABE?
WABE.
Close. Yep.
Yeah, I'll post it correctly. Okay, thank you so much, and we'll look for your work tomorrow.
Thank you for your time, Jessica.